Hi everyone, how's it going? We'll get started in like a minute. Um, just give me 1 second. Okay, let's get started. Sorry I joined a bit late, guys. Today we're gonna do the online practice tests for the SHSAT. This one's the official DOE one, so I'm gonna send it in the chat right now for everyone to open up. Um, you don't need to do the test yourself. What I want to do today is just walk through the test and do my best to like help you guys. So today we're gonna do the reading section of this, and then tomorrow we're gonna do the math. So just give me 1 second. Let me pull up my um, screen. I'm gonna share my screen. So again, you guys can follow along. You can start the test as well. It'll be Form A of this test. So if you guys can open up, that'd be great. Okay, let me share my screen. So should be this one. So you guys just navigate to this website. I sent this website. Just click Grade 8 Form A, English, no text to speech. Um, and then, yeah, again, you guys can have this test open because we're gonna walk through it together. So let's read this passage. Again, I can't show the whole thing, so if you guys can open it up on your screen, that would be good. Yeah, so just like open it up. Let's spend like 2 minutes reading this poem. It's a small poem. And then we will review the questions. I'm gonna like try to walk through one by one for these. Okay. So again, if you guys are not able to see this, please open the link I sent. Click Grade 8 Form A English No Text to Speech. If you're having issues seeing this, there might be something wrong with your browser, so you can close Google Chrome or whatever you use and just start it up again. Yeah, that should solve it, hopefully. I'm gonna send the link for anyone. please let me know right now if you're not able to see it. So again, I want everyone to pay attention just so that I don't have to answer the same question again. Click grade 8 Form A English no text to speech. Click this. You'll see this screen here. Enter your name. It doesn't really matter. You can just click start. And then this is the navigation up here. So click next and then click start. And then you'll see this English language arts reading comprehension, and then we'll start with this. So spend like a minute reading this. I'll give you guys like one more minute just to skim through and read this. I'm gonna read through it. I'll like walk through this one and then we'll answer the questions. Okay. Let me walk through this passage. Again, if you're having trouble with opening it, grade 8 Form A should be here. You have to click SHSAT practice tests. Click this, and then you'll see grade 8 Form A. Okay. Again, this is just the link that I sent. Hopefully no one has any other issues, but if you do, please let me know now. Someone said, how come this is the beginning of the test and not grammar? Not too sure. I don't know why they started off with this. The grammar should be like, be right here towards the end. But yeah. Um, let's start with this passage. So, I've read this passage before. I forget from where, because I've done a lot of the materials. This passage has shown up before. Does anyone remember this passage? Just surprisingly, they used it again. Someone said, "Is that how it's going to be in the real test?" I'm not too sure. The format, this practice thing should be the format that they start the test. So maybe the test starts with reading. Again, I'm not too sure. I'll let you guys know. But yeah, let's start reading this. Um, I've read this passage before, so my idea is like this first stanza is just talking about the mountains and um right here, the mountains from the Great Plateau uprise. So it talks about the grandeur of like nature. The second part talks about how um, people don't really care about nature. The world heeds them not. Heeds means to listen to. So the world doesn't listen to them. And it talks about how the world is destroying them. Look, tunnels, we create tunnels, we put soap advertisements on like mountains and stuff. And then we destroy the lonely fragments of their peace. There refers to nature. So that's stanza two. And stanza three says, nature still continues to rise. And then there's different ways that it shows it here. It says nature is still more vast. There's peak after peak, pile after pile, barriers spread by gods. Um, barrier broken down by those who do not need the joy of time-resisting storm-worn stone. And then here it talks more about nature. Like the mountains swing along. It's like as if nature doesn't really, nature is like counteracting, also destroying itself, right? So the idea is the first stanza is talking about how nature is uprising. Second one is talking about how the world seeks to destroy it. And then the third one here is just talking about how nature resists, um, like resists us from destroying it, and it still continues to expand. Someone said with heats, how do you figure that out? If you didn't know, because I don't see any context clues. Um, but is a contradiction that should be pretty obvious, but the world heeds them not. I would assume, like, even if I didn't know what heats meant and the word but is used, that means it's contrasting from this. So this is talking about how nature is so beautiful and uprising. In this stanza, you can clearly see from the other things, like, the world makes war on them is a very clear indication that they're trying to say like, oh, we hate the world or we hate nature, like we seek to destroy it. This line should be a very obvious clue. So just reading this, it should be obvious that the world heeds them not means like we don't really care about nature. Okay, now let's try answering this. The description in the first stanza helps establish the central idea of the poem by comparing the length of time. No length of time is being compared here. Again, remember this is the first stanza. I'll like highlight in blue, but um, yeah, it can't be A. Grandeur of the mountains with the structures of the city below them. Okay, this one's okay, I guess. Like dingy city roofs talked about here. Um, and then the structures in the city below them. So the structures in the city below them are the dingy city roofs, and then the grandeur of the mountains. The mountains from the Great Plateau is literally that. So we see the contrast right here. And it also says above. Above is a clear indication that they're two like separate things. So B would be a good answer. Let's look at the other ones though. Implying that the mountains are a source of inspiration. We don't really see anything about people in the city below. So it can't be this. Is there like a can I remove an answer choice? Is that an option? Oh. Nice. Okay. And then suggesting that the mountains are larger than the people in the city realize. Again, the people are not really talked about here. So can rule that out. And the answer should just be B. Okay, does anyone have any questions before I move on? I'll do my best to like annotate here. I think it's much easier to like instead of underlining, like I know I've done that for the reading. Might not be helpful for you guys, but um someone said, how do you find what grandeur means? Grand means big. Grandeur, kind of like the same idea. How the mountains are so grand. Here it's saying the mountains uprise, so and it's above. So yeah, can check your answer using the exhibit. Oh, nice. Okay, nice. It's B. Yeah, the poem is about the grandeur of the mountains in spite of the spread of civilization. Civilization is, I guess, but it says dingy city roofs. I don't see anything about people itself. Maybe civilization as in like what people created. People created these dingy city roofs, so we see the contrast here. Yeah, does that make sense to everyone? Let's move on. Okay, I'm gonna clear this. What detail from the poem represents the speaker's view that people often fail to appreciate what is familiar? Okay, what talks about the people? I mean, not even looking at the answer choices, I know that this says the world heeds them not. This is talking about what people think about nature itself. So something in these two lines. Um, the mountains from the Great Plateau, again, this is just describing the mountains, so can't really choose this. They have been here for too long a time. So what is this talking about? This is talking about what people think about nature. People think, oh yeah, the nature has been here for so long of a time. So the idea that comes after this, why did the author say this? Why did the author say that, oh, the people think nature's been here for so long? Is because we think that, oh, nature's been here so long, I don't really care what I do to it because it's still going to be here. That's like the idea. So it could be B. Let's leave that open. And splits down their shining sides. Oh, here. Um, Not really talking about the speaker's view, just telling us physically what is happening to nature, what people are doing to nature. But it doesn't tell us that what people think about nature, so we can rule that out. And then to which future is as was the past. I mean, this is just talk again, this is talking about in the context of how nature continues to expand. It doesn't really tell me or show me what the speaker's view is. Again, the idea of the speaker's view is said really right here. It's very direct what we are thinking here. So, yeah, the answer is D. Someone said, how do you make poems make sense while you're reading it? Some poems are kind of hard to understand, so that's why I'm asking. Um, Again, like I mean, I don't know. The best way to do it is break down stanza by stanza, like try to get the main idea. Um, you only really need to know what's being said in like a question, so like whatever line the question tells you, or if the question tells you to go back to like a specific section. Um, but yeah, the best way to do it is again, it's just like practicing, just reading over and over again. Hopefully, like as I walk through it, this will make more sense to me, to you guys. Someone said, is there a highlighter tool? Like, By underline, you see it right here. Someone said the order is different. I don't think the order should be same. Maybe like try looking here, but so do you recommend to skim, then when doing the question, read it more deeper? Yeah, you could. I usually do that for poems just because like I try to understand what's going on in each stanza. And then when the question asks you specifically, oh, look at this line, what does it mean? You kind of have to look a bit deeper. But yeah, skimming any reading passage just helps you like understand where the piece of information is. So, okay, let's go to the next one. Someone said, would the test look the same for the SHSAT? Um, it should be around the same like format. What is the order you would tackle the reading and math part? I'd just do it in order, but it depends on what you guys do. Like when I took the test, I just did it in order just because the reading came first. If you had time, should you read the whole text? Yeah, I would still read the whole text, but again, just skimming and understanding what's going on in each stanza, not like thinking about not thinking and understanding what's going on, but just figuring out what's in each stanza. I would try to do that. That's kind of my strategy here. Um, and then someone said the DOE practice tests are similar to the actual test. Um, so yeah, let me just continue. If you have any questions, just ask them at the end of this poem. How does isolating the word uprise in line 7 affect the meaning of the poem? Uh, where is that? Oh. I guess like the idea here, it's talking about how the mountains uprise. Isolating the word puts emphasis on it. Not even looking at the answer choices, it just makes sense. Like you could have said uprise in this line, but I think here the author wanted to show how the mountains are uprising and they're like um kind of like standing out. So yeah, it creates a contrast between the Great Plateau and the city buildings. Although I agree that there is a contrast, I don't agree that the word uprise causes this contrast between the Great Plateau and the city buildings. Again, we have to focus on specifically what the word uprise means. The fact that it's isolated. That's the main thing, not what it contributes to not what the whole stanza means, but like why did the author isolate it? The author usually isolates words to put emphasis on it. Here specifically, the fact that the mountains are uprising. So there's no contrast that's being shown through this. Reveals a similarity between no similarity either. Tall buildings in the city, tall mountains on the horizon. There's no similarity, and the mountains are above the city anyways. Vision of the region before people developed the land. Um, I agree that this whole line or this whole stanza is talking about how people didn't really develop the land yet. It's kind of nature expanding, but that's not why we are isolating the word. Think about why we are isolating the word. We are isolating the word to put emphasis on how the mountains are so big and they are uprising. Um, so yeah, we can rule that out. And then the answer should just be D. Yeah, does anyone have any questions with that? Where do you figure out what the word a great plateau means? Again, great plateau, great, you don't really need to know what it means. You just need to understand that, um, I guess great plateaus may be something the mountains are a part of. That's not the most important thing here. The most important thing here is that you can see clearly that it's saying that the mountains are uprising. So they're standing tall. Um, okay, let's go to the next one. In which two ways does the author develop the speaker's point of view in the second stanza? Okay, let's go through each one. Describing the mountain's awe-inspiring size and strength. This is not done in the second stanza. Again, the second stanza is talking about how humans are kind of destroying nature, so we can rule that out. Um, Comparing the various methods human use to control nature. Um, I agree, but I don't think there is any controlling nature here. It's a problem here. Humans are not trying to control nature. It's more like they're destroying nature. Um, so. I'm gonna rule this out. Criticizing the careless actions of humans that harm the natural environment. This is a better answer choice because here it's not like The humans are not trying to control nature. Here, it's just kind of like they're destroying nature. So the fact that this specifies specifically that the actions are careless, it's going to be C. D, by demonstrating how the mountains and the people are able to benefit from each other. No benefit talked about here. Again, it's just people destroying it. Um, this leaves E. What is E? By depicting the unfortunate plight of the mountains with vivid details. The unfortunate plight is a clear indication that something unfortunate is happening to the mountains. You don't even need to know what the word plight means. Unfortunate means that something bad is happening to the mountains. It's unfortunate how people are destroying it. Vivid details, yes, vivid details are talked about. These are the vivid details right here. These three examples of how the world is making war on them. So the answer should just be E. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next one. How does the details in the third stanza most contribute to the development of a theme of the poem? Um, So we talked about how this third stanza is just describing how people are, or so the second stanza, people are destroying nature. Third stanza, nature is resisting this change and nature continues to expand. That's the idea I get. Um, by reflecting nature's capacity to resist change, okay, this could be good. Nature's capacity to resist change. Here we see how nature is not unfazed. Like nature seems unfazed, like when people are destroying it and they're withstanding change. So it could be A. Um, B, by showing that nature is capable of influencing human will. We're not seeing any influence on human will. It's kind of like nature is just resisting change for itself. Here we don't see anything about how it's convincing humans. Um, exposing how a lack of awareness leads to nature's ruin. Again, this is not done here. This stanza only talks about how nature is expanding. And then by explaining why people must respect nature. It doesn't really tell us why people should respect nature. We don't see anything here that directly addresses people or explains to people why they should respect nature. All we see here is nature is withstanding change and they continue to expand. Here is like continuing to expand, withstanding change. We see like vaster and vaster, vaster and still more vast, peak after peak, pile after pile. So yeah, the answer should just be A. Does anyone have any questions? Someone said, is there partial credit if you get one correct or do you get the question incorrect? Again, if there's no partial credit on this test, you either get a question right or a question wrong. So if you're doing one of the like new TEI questions and you get like part of it right, you still won't get credit for that. You'll get it wrong. Think of all these questions as either you get it right or either you get it wrong. So yeah, I just want to make sure. Someone said, how does mountain swinging relate to nature resisting change? The fact that the mountain is swinging along means that it's not like here we are talking about how humans are destroying nature, but here it seems like nature's unfazed, nature's withstanding the change. So that's why. The fact that the mountain's swinging along means that nature is thriving. So that means that nature is withstanding change from humans. Okay, let's go to the next one. Read these lines 21 to 22. Barrier broken down by those who do not need the joy of time resisting storm rolling stone. So how do these lines help convey the speaker's point of view? Um, they suggest that the speaker wants to remove the obstacles that prevent others from experiencing the wonders of nature. It's not what this passage is even about. It's not the fact that people want to experience the wonders of nature. It's more like the author is directly addressing the people who are destroying nature and saying how nature continues to expand. So it should not be A. They reveal the speaker's opinion that some people are too busy. Like some people are too busy is not even talked about here. It's just talking about how there is a barrier broken down that by those who do not need the joy of time-resisting storm-worn stone. So I'm assuming those who do not need the joy, those are like humans. So and how they're breaking down nature. So let's rule out B. They reflect the speaker's dismay that people destroy the natural landscape without understanding the ramifications of their actions. This is pretty close to what is going on, right? People are destroying the natural landscape, barriers broken down by those who do not need, it's literally people, without understanding the ramifications of their actions. Yeah, because here it's saying people, these people who are destroying it do not need the joy of time resisting a storm worn stone. It means they don't really care about nature, or they don't care about what's going to happen if they destroy it. So it should be C, but let's see. They explain that the speaker is confident that nature will never be fully destroyed by people. This should just be wrong. I don't see any confidence from the speaker. And this is a pretty extreme answer choice. Nature will never be fully destroyed by the people. I mean, that's true, but the fact that the speaker is confident, we don't really see any confidence here that this issue is going to get solved. Um, yeah. For experimental, is it no points or 1 point? Yeah, it should just be no points or 1 point. I mean, think of it like you either get a question right or wrong. So, um, yeah, it should just be for any question on your test, you either get it right or you get it wrong. Um, Someone said, "What is time-resisting storm-worn stone?" This is just directly describing time-resisting means existed for a while. Storm-worn stone is like just nature's foundations, I believe. That's the idea. And then are we going to go over B in this session or a future one? I mean, if we have time, we'll go over B, but I don't think we'll have time. We're just going to do the whole reading section for this. Tomorrow, we're going to do the math section for this test. And we'll probably have time because I looked through the math test and I did it. It seems like pretty chill. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay. The personification in these concluding lines suggests that the mountains are, okay. So let's clear this. The mountains swing along, so it's here. Oh, this one, I remember this one. I think I chose between like it's not unaware of their coming destruction. Because again, the idea here is that nature is withstanding what humans are doing. So it's not B. It's either going to be A or C. Too proud to reveal their pain. Again, this is not like an idea that's addressed in this stanza. The whole idea is that nature is withstanding change. So it's either A or C. Gracious hosts who are untroubled by the actions of people and then lively entertainers who are amused by the everyday concerns of people. So I think these two are pretty like either you choose one or the other. In this case, the answer should be A, not C, because look at how they talk about the people. A says they are untroubled by the actions of people, and we see that. It seems like they're like withstanding what people are doing. They're kind of like just ignoring it in a sense. But here it says amused by the everyday concerns of people. This completely changes the meaning. They're amused by the everyday concerns of people. It's like I don't see any like idea of amusement going on. They're not amused by the situation. So someone says, "Who are gracious hosts?" Where does it say that? Oh, mountains. It should just be the mountains are the gracious hosts, welcoming with wide floors of blue-green ice. This is what the mountains are doing. Um, so yeah, the answer should just be A, I believe. Oops. Someone said, "How do we know the mountains are withstanding the people?" Because it's just an idea said in the passage. Here it's talking about how people are destroying nature. These specifically also destroys is said here. And here it seems like nature is withstanding humans. We see that nature continues to expand. These vaster and still more vast, peak after peak, pile after pile. Um, Barrier broken down, or so it says here, barrier spread by gods, and then it's broken down by those who do not need the joy of time-resisting storm, war, and stone. And then here, directly saying specifically how the mountains swing along the south horizon of the sky. So we see here that nature itself is just withstanding what humans are doing. Um, why can't it be that they're too proud to reveal their pain? Aren't people destroying nature? That is true, but I don't get the idea here that the nature is feeling sad or is suffering pain from what people are doing. Um, in the first, in the second stanza, we see that people are destroying it, but we don't really see what nature feels about it. In the third stanza, we see more specifically that it seems like nature doesn't even care about what's going on, and they continue to thrive. So yeah. So the answer should just be A. Okay. Is that it for the stanza? Oh no, there's one more. Wow. Okay. Which quotations from the poem support the theme that nature's unspoiled beauty is splendid, and which quotations support the theme that human creations detract from natural wonder? So, okay. So, above the dingy city roofs, blue, white like angels with broad wings. This is talked about. Let me clear. So we see the contrast here. It says above the dingy city roofs. So this is talking about human creations. And natural wonder is the blue white like angels from broad wings. So that should go under human creations detract from natural wonder because it's literally saying that the blue white like angels from broad wings is above the dingy city roofs, and the dingy city roofs are made by humans. Pillars of the sky at rest, the mountains from the great plateau uprise. Here there's no like there's no talk. It's not really talked about how human creations detract from natural wonder. So we would put this under nature's unspoiled beauty is splendid. Tunnels, their graphite tunnels, their graphite cliff splits down their shining sides. So this is talked about in the stanza where people, this is the word the world heeds them not. It's like people are destroying nature. Tunnels, they're graphite cliffs. This is what people are doing. And then what nature, the natural wonder here is just I guess the graphite cliffs actually. And then splits down their shining sides. So shining sides is describing the granite cliffs, and humans are splitting them. So that's the idea here. So this should be under human creations detract from natural wonder. Someone said, do you just move one to each box? Yeah, so here it says quotations and it says move each answer to the correct box. So specifically, they just tell us like to move one and to move all of these five answer choices either into the left box or like the right box. Um, Wilderness still untamed, to which the future is as was the past. It doesn't really describe humans or human creations here, so we can put that under here. And the last part, the south horizon, the sky welcoming with wide floors of blue-green ice. Again, the same idea here. We don't see any mention of like human creations. So this would just go under nature's beauty is splendid. Does anyone have any questions about this type of question? Just moving it into the box. That's all you really have to do. Okay, let's go to the next one. Scribe like an Egyptian. Okay, I feel like I've read this before. Um, okay, let's spend like a minute or two reading this. Again, I want everyone to have their test out so we can just like read through this. Um, yeah, take like a minute and then we'll go over it. Again, if you don't have this test, open this link, click SHSAT practice test, and then click English. I'm gonna send it again, but hopefully everyone understands this. Does the SHSAT reuse passages? No, they won't reuse a passage. This just happens to be reused. Like I feel like I've heard of this passage before. So yeah. And someone said, how does the first box in the detracting category fit? So this one, because the Gingy City roofs are human creations, and it's trying to show how human creations are detracting from the natural wonder. The natural wonder is the blue, white like angels. Again, we are doing test grade 8 form A. So, okay. Yeah, so let's just spend like a few minutes reading to this and then we'll go over it. Okay, I finished reading through it. Again, I know people are asking about the passages and if they use the old passages. Um, I don't know how old this passage is specifically. If you've read it before, this is just practice material. So practice material, they might reuse passages, but everything on your test is going to be most likely a passage that you've never seen before. It's going to be new material. It could be new material from this year or maybe like 20 years ago, but it's going to be new material. So everyone just keep that in mind. It's going to be new passages that you probably have not seen before. Maybe if it's like a common reading, it could be, but yeah. Okay, let's start. Let's start this. So, which sentence from the excerpt best supports the idea that there were different levels of education for a scribe? Okay, so first the idea is let's kind of go through what's in each paragraph. Um, this one talks about the difference between the hieroglyphs and like the hieratic script. So I'm gonna like bold those. Here it talks about hieroglyphs and the history behind it. And then how people use hieratic for a shorthand version, which is quicker to write in more economical space. Okay. Third paragraph just talks about this one guy, um, who's an example of this. No matter how humble his origins, an educated Egyptian could achieve almost anything. So he's an example of that. Um, Here, the main idea, education is not available to all. Talk about more specifically how these students the boys would train all the time, and boys from poorer families could only hope to be educated with support from a wealthy person. So, main ideas. This one said scribal education began with the elementary principles of hieratic script, and then talks about that more specifically. And then here it talks about how a dictionary of hieroglyphs with their hieratic equivalents show that a knowledge of more than 450 signs was required for everyday writing purposes. So let's bold that just to keep in mind. Um, and then here it talks about more specifically, like if you want to go into high profession, you have to train for several more years. And then occupations for other people as well, like draftsmen, artists, architects. So again, that's the idea. Um, it kind of just bolded these so that you get an idea of what's in each paragraph. But yeah, let's answer this one. Different levels of education for a scribe. So we kind of talked about that here because here we talked about levels of education. So um, people who wanted to do this higher level educations, like officials, priests, and lawyers, they would have to train for several more years. And then others could become this. So it just talks about how like different occupations require people to do these professions for different times. So that is literally like different levels of education. We can go through each one. Um, However, contrary to popular belief, not all Egyptian scribes understood hieroglyphs. I mean, that's true, but that doesn't show that there's different levels of education. Um, Education is only talked about in terms of how everyone had to learn. So right here, kind of like if you're involved in education, you would just have to learn hieratic script. So the fact that not all Egyptians understood hieroglyphs is not really a part of showing different ed levels of education. Education starts with hieratic script, so you can rule that out. Um, for everyday purposes, scribes use a shorthand version of the hieroglyphic script known as hieratic, which is quicker to write and more economical space. Again, this doesn't show different levels of education. It just shows the advantages to this new easy script of like hieratic. So rule that out. Um, and then this limited the scope for employment, but such on-the-job training allowed apprentices to help out at home while learning. Although this is important, um, it says allowed apprentices to help out at home when learning. Let's talk about in paragraph 4. Where is it? Here. So this is talking about how boys from poorer families had support from a wealthier relative or patron, and this limited the scope for employment, but on-the-job training allowed them to help out at home. This doesn't really tell me anything about the different levels of education. It only talks about in this specific circumstance, if you were a boy from a poor home and you had this like on-the-job training, like your personal, like wealthier relative or patron would help you out, then you can maybe help out at home. But this doesn't really tell us about different levels of education. The correct answer should be D, for professions such as those government official, priest, or lawyer. A scribe would train for several more years, increasing his vocabulary to perhaps 1,000 more signs. So the reason why this is good is because it talks about how a scribe would train for several more years. So different levels of education here. Here you would have to increase your vocabulary to 1,000 or more signs. So originally we see that a knowledge of more than 450 signs was required for everyday writing purposes, but here it says you have to learn like 1,000 more signs if you want to do these like specialized professions. So the answer should just be D. Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay, let's go to the next one. The author's purpose for writing this sentence is to, let me read. Okay, this is paragraph 2. Okay. So paragraph 2 talks about hieroglyphs and what they're composed of, and then it gives us like the history of both. Here it says including both ideograms. So hieroglyphs include ideograms and phonograms. The writing system referring to hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs were used in formal inscriptions on tomb and temple walls, as well as elaborate funeral papyri. Oh, I guess they actually give you the definition here. So, okay. So just telling us how hieroglyphs were used. So let's go through each one. Explain how hieroglyphs were reserved. There's nothing here that tells me they were reserved for this one purpose. So rule that out. Um, Demonstrate the methods experts use to interpret them. These are not methods that they use to interpret them. These are just things that make up the language. The language had ideograms and phonograms. Clarify the significance of hieroglyphs in language and literature. Although this is good, this is not like specific enough. D is a more specific answer here. Um, it describes the basic features of hieroglyphs. Basic features are these two things I highlighted, and then how they were typically used. It says right here, this writing system was used in formal inscriptions on tomb and temple walls. So the answer should just be D. Does anyone have any questions on this? Someone said, what do you mean by it's not specific enough? Clarify the significance of hieroglyphs in language. This is so broad, right? Because where is the significance of language? D specifies the basic features of hieroglyphs. So the features, the actual features are the ideograms and phonograms. The significance of the language, they should be more specifically telling us, oh, what words made up the language and why they were used. Additionally, why C could be wrong is because it says right here literature. I don't see anything here that talks about literature like actual books that it was used in. It's not really talked about here how hieroglyphs were used um, in literature. Even if even if it's used in formal inscriptions, it's not literature. Literature is like books. So, okay, let's go to the next one. Which statement summarizes the process that schools use to train students? Okay. Boys had to memorize 450 hieratic signs. Once they learned these, they were expected to copy literary texts that contained valuable lessons. Does it ever say they had to memorize? Well, let's go to the so let's go to the process that schools used. So here, scribal education began with the elementary principles of the hieratic script. What specific things are talked about? They trained for just 5 or 6 years. And these are the lowliest scribes. So if the lowliest scribes are training for 5 to 6 years, we can assume that um, the higher scribes would train for more. Um, Students would have to copy these things, exemplar documents and extracts from popular texts, to practice their hieratic writing on basic format letters, reports, and contracts while absorbing the good advice. Surviving examples of copywork sometimes includes the tutor's corrections. Um, yeah. Some significant Egyptian literary works survive almost exclusively from student copies. So, okay, let's go to the next paragraph. Um, Seems like here a schoolboy's dictionary shows that a knowledge of more than 450 signs was required for everyday writing purposes. Um, Lessons in record keeping and filing and labeling enabled any half-competent scribe to perform that most essential of all scribal functions, the making and updating of lists. Okay, and then it just keeps talking about this. Um, okay. Um, okay. Boys had to memorize around 450 hieratic signs. Once they had learned these, they were expected to copy literary texts that contained valuable lessons. We can rule this out. One reason why is because it says boys had to memorize around 450 hieratic signs. Here, it says a knowledge of more than 450 signs was required for everyday writing purposes. This doesn't mean that they had to memorize it. The second thing is look at the sequence of orders. It's saying that once they memorized these, they were expected to copy literary texts. It's not true. It talks about copying literary text right here. It doesn't say that, oh, after they memorize these words, they have to copy. It says it actually mentions the copying detail first, and then the fact that they should have a knowledge of this. So that's wrong. Boys spent at least 5 years learning hieratic signs. This is good. It's talked about here, which they practiced by copying texts. Talked about here. During this period, they were also introduced to basic hieroglyphs. Should have highlighted this, but I think yeah, it's right here. They only learned the rudiments of hieroglyphic script. So this directly connects to B. So the answer should just be B. But let's go through each one. Um, Here, C, it's not the best summary because it says that they spend 5 or 6 years. Okay. And then after this, they could become apprentices and begin learning hieroglyphics. Never talks about this last part here, how they can learn hieroglyphics. It only really talks about hieroglyphics here, how it's like rudimentary. They only learn the small parts of this. Um, so yeah, we can rule out a C. And then D says boys were taught two different scripts. Again, this is not true and doesn't really mention that, so the answer should just be B. Someone said, is there a way to summarize this without going back to the passage? Not really. You have to focus on this. You have to focus on this paragraph here, which kind of gives you the process that schools use to train scribes. So you can't just read each one and just like remember what is it said in the passage. All I really had to do, I shouldn't have read this, but I should have focused only on paragraph 5 because that gives me the whole process. Um, and yeah, B is the only one where each detail is mentioned here. Everything else has wrong details. So it's not really about being specific or whatever answer choice is more specific. It's about which one has the details in this passage. And B is the only one that has it. So, okay, let's go to the next one. Which claim is best supported by the information presented in paragraphs 3 and 4? 3 talks about how this guy, no matter how humble its origins, he could achieve almost anything. So here, literally, like, it just shows an example of how someone from a lower class or middle ranking parents actually was able to achieve anything. Well, here in this case, he became commander of Egyptian forces. Paragraph 4 is talked about education is not available to all. Um, Governments supported schools where boys commenced their training at 6 to 7. And then it's also talked about here that boys from poorer families needed support from a wealthier patron or relative. So education was difficult for the common citizens of Egypt to obtain. This could be supported here. It was difficult for them, but paragraph 3 doesn't really talk about how difficult it was for the common citizens of Egyptians to get education. Because here it actually talks about how um, he just talks about how he rose through military ranks and doesn't really mention education. Once students began to study to become scribes, their future held more possibilities. This could be a strong idea. This paragraph 4 is talking about how students began to study for scribes. Here are just the general boys that commenced their training at 6. And then here it talks about how even people from poorer families could become educated, only if they were supported from a wealthier relative. And we see the more possibilities with their future here. This guy is an example of someone who came from middle-ranking parents, but he basically achieved almost anything. So it could be B. Um, C, support from the outside sources such as government or temple were necessary. Doesn't really talk about how he was supported by government or temple, or else I would have chosen this one. So. And then D says becoming a successful scribe requires a student's family to sacrifice time and money. There's no details that they sacrificed time and money. It only said that his parents were middle ranking. We can't just assume that because they were middle ranking, they spent so much time and money on his education. So the answer should just be B here. Someone said, do you think it would be good to highlight this like this during the actual test? I mean, it's like helping me so far, so if you can, I would do it. Definitely try taking, maybe if you want, you can take test B, because we probably won't do that in this class. So try taking test B and like highlighting and see if that helps. Um, Someone said, should we take a full-length exam 4 days before the test or just rest? If it's 4 days before the test, I would like you can take it if you really want. Really up to you. Okay, let's go to the next one. 13. Hieratic script was valuable in a bureaucratic government because why was it valuable? Does it not say here? Bureaucracy is mentioned a lot. Here it talks about how people relied on hieratic script because the multitude of everyday documents generated by the Egyptian bureaucracy. Oh, so it's actually mentioned here. Okay. So literally the only answer choice that supports this should be A. Efficient way for scribes to produce large amounts of documentation. Everyday documents generated. They can make a lot of documents because it's easy. Simpler. Um, this is not why it helps a bureaucratic government. Um, Knowledge of scripts prepared scribes to serve their society does not, again, you have to figure out the reason why they're valuable in the government. Not what people did with the script, but why it's valuable in the government. And then, again, this talks about communication, but that doesn't tell us why it's valuable, why the government chose to use this over hieroglyphs. So the answer should just be A here. Okay, let's go to the next one. The diagram after paragraph 6 best provides additional support for the topic by demonstrating the place of scribes in ancient Egyptian social structure. That's true. This is a social class structure. We see where they are here. Could be A. Let's look at each one. Depicting the types of tasks, but I don't really care what other people are doing. I only care about what scribes are doing here. So they didn't really want to show the different types of tasks for each social class. Um, Indicating that scribes were able to easily improve their social ranking. I mean, again, the table or this diagram doesn't really show that. D, comparing the social positions of each social class in ancient Egypt. Um, okay, so the reason why this is wrong is because this is the roles of scribes in society. It's not just a general comparison between each social class. It's just like how scribes fit into this social class structure of Egyptian social class. So these are saying two different things. A is saying demonstrating the place of scribes, D says comparing the social positions. We don't want to compare how scribes are better than pharaoh or scribes are better than animal herders and farmers. We just want to see where scribes are in this structure. So because of this difference, the answer should not be B, D. It's just going to be A. Does anyone have any questions on that? Hopefully not. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay. Which statement would the author most strongly agree with? Um, Boys in Egypt were encouraged to enter the same profession as older male relatives. This idea is nowhere in the passage. I don't remember reading this at all. Same profession as older male relatives. Even the poor people, I don't think this would not be true, especially for the poor people, right? Because they wanted to become scribes. So it doesn't really mention here how they should enter the same profession. Knowledge of hieroglyphs were helpful to Egyptians who were interested in becoming scribes. It's not true. They didn't use hieroglyphs. Remember, they used hieratic script. Hieratic script was more practical to ancient Egyptians than hieroglyphs were. This is true. Literally says here. Talks about more specifically how people relied on the hieratic script more than hieroglyphs itself. Boys who studied for a few years were unlikely to find any employment as scribes. This could be a true idea, but this is not the strongest one. I think C is more stronger because C just has more blatant evidence to it, so we can rule out D. B is wrong because knowledge of hieroglyphs were helpful to Egyptians who were interested in becoming tribes. Hieroglyphs, that's not true. Hieratic script was more important. Um, B could be a correct idea, right? Like maybe if you knew hieroglyphs, it might help you a little bit, but it doesn't really say anything about that here. The last time hieroglyphs were mentioned is here. They only learned the rudiments of hieroglyphic script. It's not really mentioned after that, especially if you were interested in becoming a scribe here. It doesn't mention anything at all about hieroglyphs here. Can read through it, but so yeah, the answer should just be C. Okay, does anyone have any questions so far? Let's go to the next one. Okay, next passage. I think this is a new passage. I've never seen this before. Confirm with me if not. Okay, so let's read this one. I'll give you guys like a minute or two. Hopefully we can get through most of these passages, but I haven't seen this one before, so this would help. Okay, let's take a few minutes to do this, to read through it, and then we'll start answering. Okay, let's start doing this one. One sentence from the excerpt supports the idea that she understands what her father is really thinking, and which sentence supports the idea that Ellen and her father share the same interests. Um, okay, so let's go through each one. I love Dad's way of talking that makes him seem different from other ranchers. Says that she loves her dad's way of talking, but there is no like I don't think it supports either one. Doesn't show that she understands what her father's thinking. Just like literally her just saying that she loves the way that um he talks. So this should probably not go in either one. Let's do the next. Let's see the next one. He's the one who gets excited when I do about spring coming or cereal running in the magazine and we're both reading. So this is talking about how he gets excited when his daughter gets excited. So both of them are getting excited when they talk about this. Like spring coming, cereal running in the magazine we're both reading. So it should be the right box, supporting the idea that Ellen and her father share similar interests. Okay. And then, well, we don't have to decide tonight, but I knew he wanted to go to Clark City. So this is her dad saying something, and then she recognized that what he wanted to do. So that's literally, quite literally verbatim this, right? Supports the idea that Ellen understands what her father is thinking. So it should be this. And then the last one, we'd go in right after dinner and go around to the stores, dad going one way and mom and I another. So this doesn't really support each box. So this question, the reason why you don't put anything else into the other boxes, see, you're not able to, because it talks about specifically only one sentence that should support one box and one sentence that supports the other box. If it asked for multiple, it would say sentences with an S, but here it just says sentence. So we can't really, we don't have the option to put multiple in the box. So someone said, "Was this passage really about?" I can't really see a main idea. It's just like her talking to through two moments in her life. Um, so the first half, like where it's like here, or it's like paragraphs 1 through 8 talk about how she's kind of getting ready to leave college. Paragraph 9 is like the switch where she remembers the time that her dad went back to the East. Um, And then paragraphs 10 and below talk about that moment that already happened. Like the mom, dad left, and then the mom and daughter like stayed together. It's not about a divorce. I'm not too sure. I don't think there's enough information to say it's about divorce, but we know for sure that here she's leaving. It also says right here she's preparing to leave her parents and the family farm for the college the next day. So, okay. So the answer should just be this. Does anyone have any questions on this? Yeah, let's go to the next one. Sentences help develop a theme for the excerpt by um okay, so let's read through this moment and understand what's going on. Um Dad always said mom could make all the dishes he'd had back in Vermont as well, as though she were a New Englander herself instead of a Russian. All of a sudden I realized that tomorrow when those beans would be ready to eat, I'd be going away. It gave me a funny feeling. This is in paragraph 2, um, right here. What beans are they talking about? I guess it's like some food that in the house. What had these sentences helped develop a theme of the excerpt by suggesting that life presents people with many challenges? There's no challenge here. This is just talking about how she realized that she will be away. So, like, it's just like a transitional period in her life. Transitional meaning like things are changing, like circumstances are changing. She's not going to be with her parents. It doesn't really address a challenge here. The stress of major life events can cause confusion. There's no confusion here. The idea for the first sentence is like Um, um, this familiarity that she has with her parents, like her dad and mom are kind of talking here together, and this is their dynamic. The dad was telling the mom that um, mom could make all the dishes he'd had back in Vermont, as well as though she was a New Englander herself. So she's going to miss her parents' food because this sentence really talks about how her mom was making the food like a New Englander instead of a Russian. Um, so yeah, we can rule out B. Someone says, isn't the fact that she is moving the conflict? This says life presents people with many challenges. So one, I like, there's not many challenges here. It's only a transition. Um, so I don't really see like a conflict per se. It's just like a new period of life. There's no conflict here, like there's no issue to solve. It's more of just like she is getting ready for a new phase in her life. So those are two different things. So that's why I would rule out A because it is not a challenge. It is going to be a challenge, but the fact that this says life presents people with many challenges, I only see one challenge here, and I don't think the idea is, oh, you have to go through many challenges. So that's why I ruled out A. Um, C says demonstrating that moving on from the familiar is a common human experience. This is more specific. I like this because it says moving on from the familiar. That's really what's going on here, right? She's familiar with her parents' food or the fact that the mom could make all the dishes, and then she immediately talked about how tomorrow when those beans are ready, I'd be going away, so she wouldn't be there. So this is her moving on from the familiar. So it could be C. And emphasizing the idea that people can easily learn the routines of being part of a new culture. This should be obvious. This is just irrelevant from the point. I don't really see anything here where she talked about learning the routines as being part of a new culture. So the answer should just be C. Someone said, why was B ruled out? I thought that she felt confused when the beans weren't going to be eaten by her the next day. She was not confused. She was sad. It gave me a funny feeling that shows that it's like she just felt this like sadness because she wouldn't be there when her parents would eat it. Um, so yeah. And then someone said, how does it show that it's a common human experience? Demonstrating that moving on from the familiar is a common human experience. So the reason why it's a common human experience is I think one thing that supports this best part is like when she talks about um the fact that when her dad moved to the east. So that was the last time she experienced like this change in the transition period of her life. Um and then it walks through this moment here when her dad left and how she felt like just with her mom. Um yeah. I think that's like what best supports it. The answer should just be C. I don't even know what the answer is. Okay, let's see. Um, okay. Yeah, does anyone have any questions on that? Okay, let's go to the next one. 18. I'll be taking the train myself tomorrow night. I said aloud more to hear myself. The remark contributes to the conflict in the excerpt by. Okay, again, I know that last question I ruled out B because I don't think it's a big conflict. I also still disagree with this. This is not like a conflict. It's just like it's not like she's arguing with anyone. It's more just like a situation that she has to go through. So hopefully you're not confused when like it says right here like it contributes to the conflict. It says that in paragraph 3. So we can rule out B. I don't see any tension between mom and dad. This is something that the daughter is saying. Revealing dad's reasons to want to drive to the city. Um, I'll be taking the train tomorrow night. But that's not why it says this remark. When I hear this remark, it's more specifically like why she said this out loud, more to hear it for myself. It's like her like mentally preparing for when she is about to leave. So that's why I like stick to this. So I don't think this contributes to the conflict by showing dad's reasons to want to drive to the city. Um, okay, let's go. The leading Ellen to distance herself from both mom and dad. Could be. And then D, showing mom's reluctance to the plan that far in advance. Right, so what happens after this? Wait, just I'll call on whoever raised their hand. Just give me 1 second. We can drive you into the town this afternoon. There's no need to go. Oh, okay. Oh, so here it's like the dad wants to drive the daughter into the town, and then the mom says there's no need to go to the town. So it could be B. I would rule out D first, or I'd rule out C because it's not showing distance between mom and dad. I guess because it's like 4 and 5 are saying those lines. And then between B and D, showing mom's reluctance to plan that far ahead in advance. I think because the question talks more specifically about the conflict, what directly it like I think B is more specific to saying how this contributes to the conflict. Although D could be true, um, like the mom is reluctant to plan that far in advance. I really see here that it just like emphasizes the tension. So I think it's B. Let me check. Okay. What is it? The sentence causes her parents to propose. Okay, and then why is it not D? It's because okay, reluctance to plan far in advance. Okay, so the reason why D is wrong is because it's not like the mom doesn't want to go because she doesn't want to plan in advance. So that's why it's not D. So yeah, the answer should be B. Apologies, I'm just working through this. Yeah. Someone said, will a TI specify how much we have to drag and drop like 2 sentences? Yeah, so if it says sentence singular, then you only drag one into each box. Like the one here did, says sentence and sentence. So one, I think, I forget which question it was, but it was a bit earlier. Wait, what? Oh, forgot to choose these. Okay. But it was like, where is it? Here it says quotations with an S. So yeah. So here we see quotations with an S. Okay. Let's go to 19. Read the sentence from paragraph 9. I tried to, and then I just sat still and looked straight into it. How does the phrase look straight at it? What's he talking about? I tried to, and then I just sat still and looked straight at it. Straight at it, it's not like a physical thing, right? Here she was talking about how I couldn't keep from thinking of that time Dad went back to the East. So it's like she's looking at this situation that she was in, and then um, she tried to not think about it, and then she sat still and looked straight at this situation that she was in. Um, it shows Ellen is willing to deal with the problem directly instead of ignoring it. Maybe the problem here could be that the situation that she was in when her dad went back to the East. Not too sure on A. B says it suggests that Ellen studies all parts of an issue, not just its surface. No, I don't think that's what it is. Here it's more specific. It's saying that she didn't want to think about this time, and then she looked straight at it. So there's no two sides of the argument here. This is just like a situation that she went through. That's kind of the idea that I was saying earlier that there's no argument going on here. There's no there's no like two-sided conflict. It's kind of just her dealing with this new period in her life. And then D, it implies that Ellen is eager to seek wisdom from past experiences. Um, I don't like the seeks wisdom part. There's nothing in this like line here that says that she wants to seek wisdom from her experiences. Although this could be an idea that she is trying to do when she talks about when her dad left. That's not why the phrase like I looked straight at it meant. So it's probably A. Showed that she's willing to deal with the problem directly instead of ignoring it. Let me check. Okay. Um Yeah, she's willing to face problems such as a painful family memory head on. I still don't like the fact that it's talked about as a problem. Again, this should just be like a situation that she had to deal with. Maybe that's what they mean by problem. It's not like a problem that she had with anyone. It's just like more of like a situation that she had to deal with. But yeah, A makes the most sense. Um, yeah, does anyone have any questions? Someone said, out of curiosity, since some people take the test on Wednesday, some on the weekend, and high schoolers the week after, so the test the same. Test will not be the same. I just know from experience that it's not the same. It's not even the same. So like when I took it, I think like some of my friends took it Saturday, some of them took it Sunday. It was not the same for either one. Um, for high schoolers, the test is more difficult because it's ninth grade. Um, will it be the same for charter and school and public? I think if there's different forms of the test actually. Like I'm very sure like when I took it and like I had a bunch of friends that took it um in the same day and we just had different tests. It's kind of what the makers of the test do. You might maybe you will have like some same yeah. Someone said there's 12 plus forms. You know, when I took it, it was probably like it was like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. It went up to P. So like it's like completely different. Um, Someone said people who are taking it on the same day in school, will they have the same test? No, again, like the test should just be different regardless. Like it should just be different. Um, there's different forms that you would have to do. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll talk more about the test. Let me get through this passage. I'm going to do one more passage and then I'll answer everyone's questions about this. So hold on to your questions. Let's just let's finish this section and then I'll address it. The words cold and dark affect the tone. Where does it say that? Okay, so maybe cold and dark show that. So here, when her dad went to Vermont, I'm going to put this in pink. It was dark when the train came. Even now I could feel how cold and dark it was. So it's not the fact that it was like late at night and she felt cold and dark. It's the fact that her dad wasn't there. Her dad had like left for Vermont. That made her feel like it was like this cold and darkness. Unpredictability, I don't like that. It's not really unpredictability. It's just the fact that she felt like sad or empty, lonely, right? And then among the family members, well, it only talks about her, so showing the feelings of anger. There's no anger and resentment. She didn't have any anger and resentment for her dad. She was just like more sad that he left. Exaggerating the feeling of regret dad experiences. It doesn't really talk about dad's regret. Maybe if I were to assume, maybe he went back to see his family because he said he's from the East. So, um, like his like siblings or like a parent or something. Not really sure what, but I don't see any feeling of regret from cold and dark. So this just leaves us with D, emphasizing the feelings of separation and loss that Alan feels. This is pretty good. I like this because separation and loss directly connect with like cold and dark. This is how she feels like she feels like lonely that he wasn't there, like her dad wasn't there. So should just be D. Okay, let's do the next one. Read those same sentences from the excerpt. Mom seems to think of nothing farther away than today or perhaps yesterday or tomorrow morning. Okay, so this is telling us how our mom feels. Um, Mom was fixing oatmeal for us to tomorrow morning. Let me put this in blue, actually. What does it say that? Paragraph 19. Mom was fixing oatmeal for tomorrow morning. Okay. The sentences help develop a central idea by suggesting that practical people focus on current needs rather than worrying about the future. Um, So practical means thinking like I don't know if people know what practical means. It's not important to this question, but just to explain practical, thinking practically is like thinking logically, only thinking about the logic. So even though this is a sad situation, the mom doesn't seem to focus on the sadness. She's just focusing on practical, like, oh, like I need to feed my daughter, or like I need to think about what's happening right now, not about like what happened in the past. That's why it says she seems to think of nothing farther away than today. She's only focusing on the today. So the mom is a pretty practical person. So I would, it might be A. Let's look through the rest. Showing that the parents tend to consider the needs of their children before thinking of themselves. I don't like the second part. I think that she does think of her child, but she doesn't really show about how she thinks about themselves, like herself. There's no contrast shown here. So I would rule out this. Revealing that it's sometimes important to plan ahead. This could be a good idea, but we want to develop a central idea of the excerpt. A better idea is how the mom thinks practically throughout the whole poem in supporting her daughter. Not the fact that it's important to plan ahead for like the readers, right? This is like a story. So what would be a better central idea is something that you learn about the character. So that's why I'm going to rule out C. And then D says illustrating that dreaming about the future is a waste of time. This is not mentioned in either one, so there's no mention of dreaming. So the answer should just be A. The mom is a pretty practical person, so yeah, does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, the flashback in paragraphs 10 to 24 affect the plot by um I can already rule out A. They're not focused on the extra work left on the form. Right? That seems if you read this, this kind of seems like this doesn't seem like a logical answer choice. Like, okay, like it does make sense logically, but it doesn't seem like this affects the plot. And it means like, oh yeah, the fact that the dad left meant they have to do extra work. Um, I like B, showing that the bond within the family persists even when the members are apart. So I'll keep it. Explaining why Ellen fears that that leaving her parents will be too. Oh, wow. Okay, all of these are pretty good. Um, and then D, illustrating the close connection that she has with both. Okay. Let's look specifically now, because I have a feeling all of these are good. Unless someone wants to point out why it's not an answer choice, let's look deeper. Um, so what happens in this moment, this flashback? He, the mom talks about how she'll manage. Dad says goodbye and says it with her name. I guess her like Russian name or something. Um, and then he was gone and the crossroads were darker than ever. Um, and then she liked the way that um, the mom kept saying Anna. I mean, the name that dad had called mom. She likes the way that, um, she likes like the name. Um, okay. This just gives more details about how the house was empty when he was gone. Mom says, "Bring your nightgown here. I'll heat you some milk." And then the mom fixed oatmeal for her tomorrow morning. Um, and then here it seems like she just goes back to this idea. Mom, what was that really your name? What dad called you? Yes, but didn't know your other name. And then, okay. So here she talks about now that I'm grown. This could be the main idea of like why she talked about this flashback. Um, but now I am grown. I feel the wall of strangeness between them more than what I was as a child. So the way that she talks about this, there is a wall of strangeness between the parents. I wonder how they would get along without me. And that's the main point. How would the parents survive without her? Um, so yeah, someone said B could be wrong because it doesn't show a bond among the whole family. It shows Ellen bond with each parent. I agree. I think that's a good point to mention. First, initially, we see that she had the bond with her dad and she felt empty, and here it shows like her bond with her mom. So we can rule that out. Explaining why she fears that leaving her parents will be too difficult. So this could be an idea that she has, but this is not shown through the flashback. There's nowhere when she mentions the flashback where she says that she fears that leaving her parents will be too difficult. She can think this, but she doesn't say this. So we can rule this out. Illustrating the close connect. Okay, I like this. Yeah, I think it should be D. Okay. Yeah. My throat ached all the way. Presenting a moment of comfort and reassurance between Ellen and her mother. So, yeah, this is good because it shows that she had sadness over the fact that her father left and how her mom comforted her during this time. So it should be D. Okay, does anyone have any questions on this? Okay, let's go to the next one. Someone said explain why is not C because so C could be an idea that she has, But there's nowhere in the flashback where she talks about how leaving her parents for college would affect her. Does that make sense? In paragraphs 10, like 10 to 14 don't really talk about this flashback. I mean, the flashback does not really talk about um, the fact that she's leaving her parents and how she feels scared. So that's why it's not going to be C. Um, okay. Okay. Which sentence from the excerpt provides the evidence that mom wanted Ellen to understand the family heritage? Um, this is just an action that her mom does. Where's the X? Again, this is something that her mom says, but it doesn't really show that she wants her to understand family heritage. I assume that the family's heritage means like her Russian side, so again, C is just something that she wants or something that happens, paragraph 7. Um, we'd go right after dinner and go around the stores. Dad going one way and mom and I another. Again, this doesn't show that she wants it doesn't show that she wants the daughter to understand the heritage. With D, why Yelena? You know that Anna Petrov. No. So, paragraph 22. Yeah, you know I'm born in Russia and Southsko. So I guess this is more specifically how the mom tells like the daughter about her heritage. This is the only like piece of evidence where it's actually like remotely mentioned. So I would choose D. Okay, is that it? Oh my God, there's one more. What is Ellen's primary mood at key points in the excerpt? Move the correct answer to each box in the table. Okay, paragraph 1 and 2. So, okay, so the idea here is you don't want to look at a single paragraph. You want to see the idea throughout the entire paragraph. Looking at 1 and 2, she talks a lot about how she's talking about the quirks of her parents, right? And how she's so familiar with these things. And that's talked about for most of this paragraph. If you look at what I highlighted right now, I'm gonna put in blue. This whole part is kind of her talking nice about her parents. I love Dad's way of talking, right? Um, and then he gets excited, but it's what mom says that I depend on. So we see this like how she really appreciates her parents. So not jealous, not wishful, worried. I understand that she's she feels this funny feeling of worry maybe, but it's not really here. I don't see any worriness in this whole like paragraphs 1 to 2. Calm, not really. Affectionate is more the better word. Because here we see like she's talking about all these like details, like specific details about her parents. So 7 to 8, I saw how it would be if I left from town. So she imagined this whole moment. Um, exactly like everything that's happening, she imagined it. So interesting. If she's imagining all these things, and then in paragraph 8, she also mentions that if I left from Gotham, we just drive down in the truck and wait. So this is a lot of just like like maybe like her imagination. That's like the primary mood here. I see like a lot of imagination going on. The best one would probably be wishful. Wishful is like hoping something that would happen, I think. So like this is what she is kind of doing, where she's like walking through this moment, I guess. And then 9 to 10. Okay, so not jealous. We can already rule out jealous. I don't feel that here. Either calm or worried. Here we can see she's kind of worried because she didn't want to think about when her dad left for the East, but then she eventually thinks about it. So I think worried would probably be the best here. So affectionate, wishful, worried. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on this? Okay, hopefully not. How is it wishful? I agree, wishful isn't the best word, but like in paragraph 7 to 8, she talks about her hopes, like when she left town and what she thinks will happen. The only word that works here is wishful. Calm is like calm isn't the best word here. Um, she like the way that she describes the motion, And in paragraph 7 and 8, the way that she describes what is going on, it's as if like these are all the hopes that she has for when she going on, and she's mentioning in specific details what she wants to happen, um, when she's about to leave town. So that's why it's wishful. Wishful is like hoping that something is going to happen, and here she hopes that this will happen. So yeah, these are things that didn't happen, but something that she hopes. Someone said, but it doesn't say wish, but show prediction. What do you? I don't know what you mean. I just think wishful is better than common jealous. I don't like what is the definition of wishful is probably like hoping something that happens. Okay, yeah. Having or expressing a desire or hope for something to happen. Um, yeah. So it's her hoping that when she leaves town, like here the way that she describes it is like she hopes that the best, like, she kind of describes like the best scenario that'll happen when she leaves and something that would make her happy. So that's why it's hopeful. I mean, wishful. So, yeah. Okay. Is that it for this passage? Okay. Seems like it's the next passage. We'll try to do this one. Let me just answer the questions that people had before. So again, assume that like when you're taking the test, no one around you will have the same test as you. Maybe someone will have the same form as you, but it's highly unlikely. There's a lot of different forms for this test. What score would we aim for? Depends on what school you need, like you're aiming for. Again, there's like tables you can find online with like the cutoff scores and everything for the schools. So aim to get like a bit higher than that score, hopefully. The test is one Wednesday, right? I mean, I don't know which one you're taking. You go if you like search up like NYC, if you search up like SHSAT information, you'll see like a table that shows when you're taking the test. So definitely double check on your own. Um, Someone said, is it different passages or different order of the same question? Honestly, it could be both. They don't tell us anything about that. Assume that whatever test you will get, it's going to be the same format. Again, 57 questions and reading 57 questions in math, but maybe you'll get different passages than the person next to you. Like most likely you will. Maybe they reuse the same one passage to everyone. Like we don't know anything specific. So yeah, what tests do you recommend to do to improve on ELA? Honestly, do the more recent ones. The more recent ones are a good example of what's going to be on the test. That's the best advice I have. So as recent tests as you can. So anything before, I think there was a, not sure if you guys know, but the old SHSAT tests used to have like what was it called? I forgot the name for it. It's like logical reasoning, like as a completely different type of section. Again, it's not important, but it's just like I think it was like 2018. I took the test in 2019, so anything like if you could find anything from that year and like after, that's pretty like representative of what the test will be. So yeah. Um, why don't people have the same test? Isn't that unfair? I mean, most likely everyone will have a different passages and everything. It's not going to be unfair because the difficulty of the passages that you get, obviously it's subjective. Like you might think this passage is hard, but your friend might think it's easy. But the way that they give the passages, it's so that it's going to be fair for everyone. Um, so it's just that's just how the test is. If everyone had the same test, then people would be cheating. So that's like the basic reason why. Is there anything repeat in ELA or math for the test? Not sure what you mean. If you're saying like in comparison to everyone else's test, you probably won't get the same reading in math passages. Um, but if you're talking about previous tests, then nothing like the practice material might repeat, but the actual test will not, there will not be the passage. Like, I'm very certain that there won't be a similar passage as the one that you've practiced with. Everything is new material. I'm talking from experience from when I took it. That's just how it is. Okay. Um, why don't we do revising editing? Let me see, like, okay, why don't we just work through revising editing and then I'll leave some time at the end for you guys to ask questions, okay? Okay, so let's skip. It should be, whoops. question 49. We'll just work through this, and then I'll give some time at the end for you guys just to ask me any questions. Um, so again, everyone just go to the question 49, and yeah, I see someone said I read this passage before, so yeah, that's interesting. I think I've seen this passage before too. Okay, I'm just skimming through it, but again, I wouldn't spend too much time understanding what's going on. This is revising and editing. So the only thing you would need to understand is like the main idea and the main idea of each paragraph. So it is easy to see why people may prefer to stay inside. So, and then people stay indoors, and then this seems to be like the main idea. Separation between people and nature put people at risk for physical and psychological issues. Tells you how photosynthesis causes this. Where's the disease here? Sick building syndrome. Like, I never heard of this, but okay. Um, and then the cause is this volatile organic compounds, and these are emitted by everyday objects inside home. So, um, the solution is to add plants. I put this in a different color because this seems to be like the turning point. Um, so yeah. Okay. And then here it talks about the psychological benefits. So it seems like adding plants is good. And then describes that connecting nature is a significant factor in a well-being, and then it ends off in like some quote about nature. Yeah. Okay. Which sentence should follow sentence three? Sentence three says scientists say that this separation puts people at risk. Probably something that introduces the idea of how indoor plants can stop this or indoor plants can improve this. So yeah, A is pretty good. Let's look at each one. Um, Indoors or out in nature, this is bad because the main point is indoor plants, says in the title. No, and no. The best one's A. A talks about the plants. This whole passage is about how indoor plants help. So what should you do when someone said, what should you do to look when adding sentences? Look at what the main point of the passage here is. Sentence three is in the first paragraph. So I know that the main point of the passage is that indoor plants stop this like negative risk and they actually improve our psychological and physical issues. So it says right here, placing plants in homes can provide a healthy bridge between nature and the indoors. This is good because it talks about plants, it talks about how they support us. So the rest of them don't really talk about plants. The whole passage is about the benefits of plants. So it should be A with transition word. Okay, so either as a result or unfortunately, there's no contrast here, and primarily isn't the best word. I don't really know. It's either A as a result or unfortunately. Emphasize the relationship between both. Okay, let's focus on the relationship. Um, Plants convert carbon dioxide into oxygen and remove many harmful toxins. So prolonged periods of time indoors away from plants deprive people of these benefits. Oh, okay. So there's no contrast. Um, this kind of just says how plants are good. Um, so as there's no as a result, it should just be unfortunately then. So unfortunately says that it's just like like this situation switched. It's just like saying that plants remove harmful toxins. So unfortunately, if you spend time at home and not with plants, then this deprives you of your benefits. Yeah. Um, okay, let's go to the next one. Which sentence could best follow sentence 13 to support the ideas? The third paragraph. Third paragraph talks about benefits. Sentence 13, recent research. So it talks about recent research, so something that specifies like a research study. Um, Here it says indoor plants were more creative and employees that had indoor plants were more productive than employees who worked in spaces without them. This just says like this one's worse because this one says one well-known hotel. I don't like that. You want to study whenever you talk about research, they want to see like it's not just one particular case, a bunch of different cases support it. So we can rule out B. This is not good. This is recent research. They want to see numbers. This just says one recent study suggested that people increase compassion with others, um, and that exposure generates compassion for the environment in which they live in. This doesn't tell us anything specifically about how plants are benefiting us, benefiting our like health. So we can rule out C. Then D says, according to a study, plants can reduce the amount of noise, and it doesn't even talk about that. It talks about the physical and psychological benefits for humans. So it should just be A. What sentence presents idea relevant to the topic of the text and should be deleted? 11, 14, 15, 16. No, this is the topic sentence. We don't want to remove the topic sentence. 14, experts suggest placing at least one living plant. This is good. This adds to the main idea of how we should have plants at home, indoor plants. Sentence 15, connecting with nature is a significant factor in a person's well-being. Um, I like this because it still talks about the indoor plant. 16, sitting in front of an electronic screen is all day is natural. Today's workers need to get up and get outdoors. The whole point of the passage is not to get up and get outdoors. The point of the passage is that they want you to have plants at home. So we can rule out C and we should rule out C. The answer should be D. Someone said, why was the previous question not B? Because it talks about one well-known hotel. A talks about 7,600 workers from 16 countries. If I'm doing a research study, who would I support more? The fact that they came up with an idea from 7,000 people or only one known hotel does this thing, right? It's a research study. You need research. So here they did research from a variety of places. This is only one well-known hotel. So it's not really reliable. That's why we ruled out B. And then the for 52 should just be D. Um, with concluding sentence should follow sentence 17 to support the information presented in the passage. Nature is something in which we flourish, so having it more part of our lives is critical. Um, so talking about this, um, it seems like they want to come up with a general idea that supports this. A is too scientific, that's why I don't like it. Here it talks about how nature is something within we flourish. So we flourish in nature, so we need to have it part of our lives. This talks about the scientific benefits. This doesn't support sentence 17. Um, this is too specific. Like experts saying that adding these specific plants is a good place to start if you want to incorporate nature into your home or office. Um, I don't like it because it's just too like how do I describe it? I'll hold it on to it for now, but I just don't like. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just too specific. C, more people should consider bringing natural elements inside and reverse some of the negative effects of an indoor-centered society. So this is a good point to end on because here it talks about when we live and work in built-in environments, and then we end off with how this can help us reverse negative effects of a whole society. So this they want to go to a broader point here. Someone said, why wasn't it A? It's not A because A talks about a scientific, like, oh, plants absorb the carbon dioxide in our air. This is scientific. But this point in 17 is not talking about scientific, it's talking about how these social benefits that we get from having plants and how it's a critical part of our life. So yeah. And then D, they don't want to talk about study. This is not the best. You don't end off a passage by talking about a study. So the answer should just be, I think it should be C. Let me make sure. Okay. Why is it not B? The sentence reference to particular types of plants supports the idea, but the sentence does not address the benefits people can experience for doing so. And okay, so a logical conclusion from information in the passage. So I guess the logical conclusion is showing that how these plants live, how these like incorporating nature into your life brings benefits. So since B doesn't do that, that's why I said B is too specific. Like it talks about these specific plants to get, but it doesn't really tell you a general idea of how including these plants will help you. So that's why it's not B. So the idea with passages is usually they start off general and then they talk about the specific issue here. This is just general. If you read this, this is just general ideas. Why people may prefer to stay inside. The whole passage doesn't even talk about that. But the author introduces ideas with a general idea. This is specific, the whole passage is specific, and then you end off with a general idea. So the general idea that you end off with after 17 is that people should try to incorporate plants to improve wellness and reverse some of the negative effects of an indoor-centered society. So here they're not even focusing on the plants now. They're just focusing on how incorporating plants is going to help us as a society. So that you always like start the passage and you end the passage with this general idea. If that makes sense to everyone, hopefully. But like I think the answer should be C. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, revising editing. Again, this is just the same like okay, vague pronoun. I'm just gonna go through this quickly. Talks about two girls, and the only sentence that talks about the girls, it says she also sings. We don't know who she means. It could be Eliza or Brianna, so it should just be C. Does this make sense? Hopefully I didn't go through this too fast. I just kind of want to finish this. So again, a vague pronoun. Vague means we don't know what she is talking about. She could either refer to like Brianna or Eliza, but we don't know who. So yeah, so the answer should just be C. Okay. What corrects the error in sentence structure? Okay, these two sentences here should be separated by a period, I think, right? Okay, so that's what it says. The land on Earth has not always been separated into the seven continents. So subject, land on Earth, verb has not. And then it says right here, massive supercontinent covered one-third of Earth's surface. You can't just put a comma here. These are two like independent clauses, so you have to separate them. So the answer should just be A. I think everything else makes sense grammatically. You guys can check, but okay, let's go to 56. Which pair of revisions is needed to correct the errors in the paragraph? This is fine. This is talking about three people. You need a comma. There is fine. Job is singular. Is a singular verb. Remember, subject and verb have to agree. Subject is her job, and her job is singular. This is fine. Until it is smooth. Yeah. The mixture is a singular word. It is also singular. Someone said we did this on Wednesday. I can't even remember. I think this is a different. You might have seen this before, but I don't think we did this Wednesday. If we did, that's kind of crazy. Granddad turned each pancake one day. This is a problem. It's just pancake and day. Pancake is singular. It should be it starts to bubble. So, oh yeah, right there. Okay. And then, okay, so this is just like multiple choice. If you like see this, like it's pretty obvious. There's only one error in construction here. Oh yeah, we did do this. Yeah, I just remember the blobfish. Blobfish is a singular word. The blobfish caused them. That doesn't make sense. There's an error in construction here. Um, so it should be it because the blobfish is a singular thing. So yeah. Okay. Hopefully this was helpful. Tomorrow I'm gonna do the math. Again, I think I could kind of breeze through this. I already like kind of looked through it. I'll still stay for like another 10 minutes. Just if anyone has like a general question about the test or if you want to ask me anything, just I'll stay on for the next 10 minutes just to help you guys because I know you guys are taking the test in a few days, so okay. Um yeah, I'll try to do my best to help everyone. So let me get water real quick and then I'll be back. Just like ask me anything in the chat. And then if you don't have any questions for me, feel free to go and then I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to help you guys out. Um, Someone said, "Do you know where we'll be taking the SHSAT?" I'm not too sure. I think you or your parents would get that information. I don't know if it's at your school. Like again, it depends on this person. So I would ask your parents, check through any information that they gave you. What is an error in construction? It's just like a subject-verb agreement error where it's using the wrong like subject or the verb. Subject and verb have to agree. So they either both are singular or both are plural. So that's like the idea. Someone said, I'm so stressed about the test. What topics should I hit? I think like, oh no, you guys do have a few days left until I would definitely do a lot of like revising, just looking through like old tests and seeing where your like issues lie. That's like the best thing you can do right now. If you want to take a practice test, you can do that. And again, it's very specific, but like you just have to look at what you're struggling with. Everyone struggles with like different subjects. So, um, do you think I should take biology or chemistry next year? It depends on what school you go to. At least I can from STI, you're taking biology your freshman year. I think if you go to like Brooklyn Tech, they do chemistry. I don't really know. It depends on what school you go to. So, every school has a different thing that you start with, but it's standardized for the school. So like everyone at STI had to take biology freshman year. Biology is like that's just how it works. SHSAT practice test similar to the actual test? Again, yes, but I always tell everyone think that your actual test is going to be a bit harder, just so that you're like mentally prepared for it. What do I think the Bronx Science cutoff may be this year? Aim for anything above like a 530. I don't know what their last cutoff is. Let me see. Bronx Science was 518. Okay. So anything above like a 530 should guarantee that you get in. Um, what are some tips for revising editing? Know all the types of questions. There's very few question types that are asked. Misplaced modifier, subject verb agreement, tense errors, right? Again, these are just the same. If you look back at your practice tests, you'll see that there's only like these types of topics that are tested. So getting good at answering those will basically like guarantee you do well on that. Would just general reading help me on the ELA? Yeah, but I mean, you guys have a few days left until the test, so like just reading wouldn't help. I would focus more specifically on what questions in reading you struggle with. If we have extra time left over, which section would we check over? In my opinion, I answered everything and I had like 30 minutes left. I focused on the math because the math was very easy for me to perfect and just get almost everything right. Reading the problem is like I would have to understand the passage again. So that's why when I go through reading, I always go through it one time and then I usually like my strategy is I circle questions that I struggle with or bookmark them since you're taking it online. Just bookmark a question that you're struggling with in the reading, and then when you come back to it, you'll know exactly which questions you struggle with. So that should be okay. Let me just clarify what I said. Just bookmark any question that you are unsure about. And then when you end the test, you'll probably have like 10, 15 questions bookmarked, and then just check over those. If you're confident in a question, just don't bookmark it. You don't have to review it again. How do you exit the geo test without not saving it? I don't think I honestly don't know how to save it either, so. For the math section tomorrow, do you want us to do the questions in advance? We'll do it together in the Zoom. If you want, do test B, but test A we're going to be doing in the Zoom. I want to attend Bronx Science, but I'm barely hitting 5:30. What should I do? Again, the idea is focus on what topics you're struggling with. If you want, like you guys, maybe if your parents could help you out, that would be good. But just like look at which topics specifically, like in the reading and the math that you're struggling with, and then try your best to like revise those. Okay. Is there not at least one text for ELA from old test that's going to be on the test? I do not believe so. I'm speaking from my own experience. I practiced, like my parent, at least my practice, I didn't do test prep, but my parents would like get me books. So I did a lot of like Kaplan and Argo prep books, and none of those passages were on the test. It was just everything completely new. I recognized an author from one of them, like it was like a Shakespeare poem, maybe. I can't really remember, but none of the passages I read were there. So I'm focusing on studying the most today, tomorrow, and Monday. Tuesday, I don't have school. Do you think I should study or take a rest day? I would lightly study. If you're taking the test on Wednesday, Tuesday, lightly study. Do not do a practice test. Like, I just don't think it helps. But I would lightly study, just look through questions and revise material. So. Um, okay. What should we do the night before the test? Just sleep early. Don't worry about the test too much. I just watched YouTube, to be honest. Like, tried my best to relax. That's really what you should be doing. Did I have any friends who worked on musicals and plays at STI? Yeah. I mean, like, my class size was pretty big. There's 900 people in my grade. So I had a bunch of friends that did, like, musical theater. It's a pretty big community at STI. We call it, like, STC, Stuyvesant Theater Community. It's pretty big and nice group of people. Is there a website you'd recommend with an SHSAT score calculator that's accurate to score practice tests? I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really see. I mean, like, just looking online, I can't really find any. I would just like I don't like to look at the score from those. I like looking at raw score a lot. Like my goal was always to get above 100 raw score. That was the minimum goal. And like on my test, I probably got like 105 or something. I got a 625 on my test, so I'm assuming I got around that. I just like looking at raw score, so I'm not too sure about a calculator. After you took SHSAT, what school did you go to get into? I got into Stuyvesant and I attended. Do you recommend Kaplan books? I'm just that's just what I did when I was a SHSAT student. Kweller Prep has good materials. I recommend doing those. And then yeah, I wonder what a school's commute means. Commute is like traveling there and back. So a commute is like me going to school. My commute was like 1 hour, 30 minutes because I live in Queens. and Stuyvesant was in Manhattan, so it was pretty long. At Stuyvesant, since there are so many smart kids, did you find it hard to stand out among everyone for college applications? I think it's a bit too early to worry about that, but like I guess, but I think it was fine because I did some like I thought I was pretty creative in my application, and I go to Brown like an Ivy League, so I'm pretty happy about where I ended up. But yeah, okay. I think that's it. I'll end it here. We're gonna start again tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll also spend a bit of time towards the end just helping you guys out, hoping that everything is good. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And someone said, how many hours of homework do you get, Sty? It varies, but like it's like 2 to 3 some days, and then some days it was just like one. What's a good score for someone who's trying to get into Bronx Science? Like 530 and above seems to get you into the school. Okay, yeah, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Best of luck in preparing, and yeah, I'll see you guys. Take care.